They're slightly open, and the eyes are also open. Of course, if it's difficult, you can also close them, but it's actually quite convenient to start to train with eyes open to meditate. We can lower our gaze to avoid distractions through the eyes, and we can blink normally, no problem. So then our whole attention is in the in and out movement of the breath, and whenever there is a thought, there's no judging, there's no classifying, there's nothing. Thought. As early as possible, we have to detect that we're in that thought, because we left the breathing at that time. So we bring back attention to the breathing. That's all we have to do, again and again. Just breathe normally. There's no need to slow down the breath or anything. The breath will slow down as thoughts start to diminish. When thoughts come, just let them be. There's no need to classify them, or I like this thought, or I should cultivate it. They're just merely movements of the mind, that's all. So we notice them and come back to the breath. Attention or mindfulness on the breath doesn't mean that we're thinking, now I am inhaling or now I am exhaling. It just is being with the exhalation and being with the inhalation. let's try to let go of our attention on the breath and simply allow the mind to rest on the present moment and see what happens. When there is stillness, then we know that there is stillness. And when there is a movement of thought, we also detect that movement of thoughts. That's all we have to do. If you find it difficult to meditate without support, then come back to the breath. Both systems are equally good. They can help us. Are there any questions? Maybe we can take a couple of questions. here. There's a mic.
Okay, hi. I noticed when my mind got really still, I wanted to fall asleep. It's this familiar feeling with like when you go to bed in the evening. So how do you stop that, or in time does it develop naturally?
Well, two obstacles mainly happen in meditation. One is concerned with losing clarity. Two elements are important to keep in the practice of meditation. And one is the stillness, and the other one is clarity. Clarity of mind means the brightness of cognizance. That is extremely important. Stillness is like a tool, we need stillness because otherwise the brightness of mind cannot really work so well. So stillness is also important, but it is less important in the sense of finding this ultimate state of our being. Then clarity is more important. And then like falling asleep or becoming dull or kind of torpor, or there are many kind of situations in which the mind is not clear, we don't really know what's happening, and then so slowly we fall asleep, for instance. It happens quite a lot. So it doesn't matter if when you meditate only once and it happened, then it's no problem. If it's something recurrent, then it's really an obstacle that you have to deal with it. There are instructions on changing your diet and changing your, dress, wearing lighter clothes, and meditating with a lot of light, and of course opening the eyes. Did you meditate with your eyes closed or open? Well, that's one of the problems with the eyes closed. We sleep with the eyes closed, so you're creating all the conditions for sleeping. Anyhow, there are so many meditations that use the eyes closed, but it's not that you cannot meditate with the eyes closed. But of course, that's one of the things is that with the eyes closed, because of such conditioning, every night we close the eyes and we fall asleep. So then you create conditions for dullness and all these kind of problems to happen more easily. So if you feel that you're falling asleep, open the eyes and kind of tense a little bit more the mindfulness, kind of like mindfulness has to be neither too tight nor too loose. But in this case, then you tighten up a little bit. When you tighten too much, then you fall into the other obstacle, which is the production of thoughts and proliferation of thoughts. And when you let it go too much and the mind is too loose, then you start into the other problem of dullness and sleepiness and so forth. So best is to have the balance between these two. But if you have a problem, then you have to act on it. And then you open your eye and you look, instead of down, you look straight up and a little bit high and open well the eyes and hope for the best.
Is the goal of mental clarity to realize which thoughts are important or how you should think about them, or is it to realize that no thoughts are that important and that you shouldn't think about them?
To realize that non-thought, you mean?
Is it to kind of create a hierarchy of importance in your thoughts, or is it to kind of push those thoughts below a certain level of importance and kind of awareness being above those, or what's the...
You mean the function of clarity?
Yeah, the goal of clarity.
No, actually, the function of clarity is really... clarity means that you know what's happening, and it has different degrees of brightness of cognizance. It can be gross, it can also be more and more and more subtle. But if we want to find the nature of our being, it is within clarity. So it's not really something so kind of circumstantial as, how you see thoughts, or you're putting them down, or you're kind of repressing them. Or actually, I think the development of stillness is the strength of the development of stillness. It's what works on the strength of the thoughts. Because what happens is that when you're meditating, you're strengthening this mindfulness. Mindfulness is a state of mind at one point. And the stronger mindfulness becomes, then the weaker thoughts happen. So, of course, mindfulness has to do with clarity. That is what is happening there. And so it's true. I mean, the function of clarity, in one sense, is to take away of these exaggerated things that thoughts have on them that don't need to have, you know. So the more clear you are, the more you see things as they are, which is the whole purpose of the practice. And seeing thoughts as they are is that you see them like just movements of in the mind. And when the mind becomes more and more stable, and the mindfulness becomes more and more stable, then thoughts really become very weak. They become weak because you don't pay attention. I mean, it's kind of like you're not rejecting them, you're not also accepting them. They just come, and somehow you are not really ignoring them because you notice, but then you go back to the breath, or you just, you know, just see them, but you don't judge them. You don't work on them. All that is the work of clarity, it's true. And so, you know, after some time, they shy away. I mean, how many times can a person come knock at your door and you don't open the door? Then finally it doesn't come anymore. No. So somehow that's what happens, you know, like mindfulness becomes so stable and thoughts start to recede. And even if there is a few thoughts, it doesn't really matter. They don't have the strength to interrupt the continuity of mindfulness. Mindfulness is cognizance, and cognizance is clarity. Yeah. But of course, that clarity is still working on a conceptual level, at the level of mindfulness. Then there are different instructions on how that clarity starts to become more and more subtle, more and more refined, and on its own starts to release the grip of concept. And once it can break concept, then it enters into its own nature, which is non-conceptual. It's not that, you know, our nature, Buddha nature, nature of being is beyond concept. We saw that, no? Beyond thought, beyond words, and so forth. But it doesn't mean that in the practice of meditation, we're developing as a product that non-conceptual state. Actually, that non-conceptual cognizance is the substance, so to speak, of cognizance itself. It's not totally separate than that our present conceptual cognizance. It's about the same. Is that non-conceptual cognizance, which is our nature of being, which is totally distorted because it has to go through the structure of ego and the assumptions and all these kind of things. So it ends up being conceptual. Conceptual means ego working, right? But it's not disconnected. So the path is not really to add and incorporate things. It's more creating the conditions for things to fall down, fall apart, veils to kind of fall apart, and then what is always there, which is the nature, essential nature of our being, then kind of opens up, and then we experience it. I mean, the mind experiences it. We cannot say at that time who experiences it, but you know, the mind is aware of its own essence.
Thank you. Hi. My question is a little more of an extension of what you were talking about. It's a little more subtle nature of mind where thoughts are one thing. So sort of an individual issue, but I want to ask you how you overcame a certain obstacle in your meditation practice. My obstacle seems to be music. I'm always hearing music because I play music a lot, and it's always present. It's subtle. It's not necessarily a thought, but it's just there. So how did you overcome something in your practice that was similar, that was always there?
Sometimes I have music, but I'm not a musician, so it's only, you know, maybe I heard some music a few hours before or something. But I have the same attitude. Anything that happens in the mind is the same kind of instructions. It's not that there's one instruction for music and one instruction for thoughts. And if music is there, well, you know, if it doesn't really kind of distract you somehow, but it's always there. I mean, it's like a movement of the mind anyhow, you know. So you're aware of that music, but not in the music. You're kind of aware that there is music. Eventually it will go away, I think. We never do that. There is the music and you're part of the music, and you know, like you kind of settle in the music. So you lost yourself there. Awareness means, or mindfulness means, you're kind of like stepping out a little bit and watching, right? So you step out a little bit and watch that there is music. But without really judging, oh, this music is always bothering me, how can I get rid of it? No, just, well, there's music, that's all. There's so many other things anyhow, so music is one of them. And it might help that way. And I wouldn't really kind of make a big deal out of it. I mean, eventually it will work out as any other thought. It is a thought anyhow, no? I think we're out of time, right? Yeah, okay. Thank you. We have to do maybe 1 or 2 minutes of silence? Or, yeah? Okay, we do one.